So I'm gonna get started now, and today we're doing the, I don't know if you can see this very well, but this is the Split Hexagram Tarot Spread. And this is the main spread that I use with all my clients. In particular, I wanted to teach you this spread because it's really, really useful, and it covers a lot of different territory. It contrasts two different things. It contrasts the spiritual level against the practical level. And if you're not really trying to do spiritual work, you can just call it the big picture. So it contrasts the big picture against the kind of the practical concerns and the immediate concerns. And because it has that split, you can also use it for relationships, because one person comes up in one half of the spread and then the other person comes up in the other half of the spread. Likewise, you could use it for choices. One choice will come up in one half of the spread, the other choice will come up in the other half of the spread. And so it's really good for comparing things and for getting two different viewpoints on something. In addition, I found, I learned this spread a while back, and I've used it so much, I've discovered all kinds of things in it. And one of the things that I've discovered is that it offers up a past and future situation. And so that's really useful for recognizing what's already happened versus what's coming up. It gives you a final outcome, which could also be a next step. I'll get into the details of all of these things as we learn the spread itself. And it also offers its advice. So it offers advice for the spiritual perspective and advice for the practical perspective, or advice for the choice one and advice for choice two, or whatever. And so between having the influences outlined, between looking at the past and future, between getting the advice cards, seeing some kind of final outcome type of, or the next thing that's the next significant thing that will happen, it really gives you a huge amount of information in one little spread. And the spread can be read pretty quickly. I tend to, if it's a simple question, and there's not too much, not too many layers to it, I can read this spread even with a little bit of a modest amount of complexity. I don't want to say it's like a yes or no answer, but I can read it in maybe 7 minutes is probably the fastest that I typically will do with this spread. But it also can go really deep, and there's a lot of ways to compare things. And so I also can often spend up to 20 minutes with the spread. I probably could go longer with the one spread, but there's kind of a limit to, we've gotten as much out of this as we need to now. So I would say it usually takes probably 7 to 20 minutes to read this spread. I'll tell you a little bit about the history of it. It's from Donald Michael Craig's Modern Magic, and it's, I believe, if I remember correctly, it's on page 22. And some friends of mine bought that book in the early 90s, and we were kind of working with it then. I don't think I came across the spread at that time, even though it's pretty early in the book. I think it was later on, when I bought my own copy of that book, that I really started working with the spread. So I'm going to say maybe 8 or 10 years ago I started working with it, maybe 10 or 12 years ago. And so the name of it is the Split Hexagram. And what this spread represents is 3 positions drawing a downward pointing triangle representing the descent of the spiritual energy, and then 3 cards representing an upward pointing triangle representing the reaching up of the earthly energy. And so if you overlap a downward pointing triangle with an upward pointing triangle, you get a hexagram, a Star of David. And so that's what the spread is, but it's taken that Star of David and separated it out into the two triangles, one on top of each other. The bottom one pointing upward and the top one pointing down. And so, and maybe I can even show you here. So there's one triangle pointing down. This is the other triangle pointing up. And then there's your final outcome or next step card there. And so, and the purpose of the spread as taught by Donald Michael Craig is he had you use only the major arcana, and it was for asking questions about doing magic. And so the idea was, I have this operation planned and I'm wondering if will I get a good result doing it? And so you did this spread, and there's the spiritual result, and then there was the practical result. So, if you do a spell for money, it's like, the practical result might be, yes, you get the money, but maybe the spiritual result is, but somebody had to lose the money, or, you borrow it from somebody and then you end up with a bad relationship with them or something. So like on the spiritual side, there might be a negative, and on the practical side, there might be a positive, or vice versa. There might be a really good spiritual result from doing this, but there might be a negative practical thing in the immediate now. Or they might both be good, both be bad, or whatever. But it's a really good spread to use to contrast those two things, so that you can make a really wise decision about whether or not to do the operation. So that's the context of the original spread. Now, of course, once I familiarized myself with it, and I was using it mostly for magical workings in the beginning, but once I familiarized myself with it, I realized what a good spread it was and how useful it would be for other types of readings. And I started using it, I probably started using this with clients I would say pretty much right away. And it's unfolded for me over the years, and I've learned more and more about it. I have added a whole bunch of, I've noticed so many relationships between the ways the cards lay out, that I have added all kinds of information and interpretive techniques to the spread that were never included in the original one that Donald Michael Craig published. The next question I have for you is, who wants to do a reading? Who wants to get a reading right now? Sabra's raising her hand. I saw Sabra first. So I'm going to go ahead and let her do it. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Sabra.
Oh man, I was hoping it would be me, but I wish I had prepared better.
Well, let me tell you something before we go any further. I should have said this at the very beginning, but I am recording this, so keep that in mind. And if you change your mind, that's fine. I really want to put this up on my YouTube channel, and I've really wanted for a long time to have a recording with another person of me doing a reading, so that I can just show people what it's like. So that's the other kind of, if that changes what you want to ask, or it changes whether or not you want to participate, I want to say all that up front.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would love to look into career, because I always feel like, I have been feeling like things need to be shifting. Okay. So I'm not sure how to pose the question.
Okay, good. No, that's fine. One of the things, I don't know how philosophical I want to get, but one of the things about tarot questions, I really, really encourage my students to come up with very clear questions. And I have traditionally, I've done that with my clients as well, but I've noticed more and more that spreads that I use, the types of spreads that I use, allow me to pull a lot of information from a topic instead of a question. So career is okay with me, unless I guess this is what I would say. If you have something more specific that you want to ask about, like I have a specific opportunity that I want to inquire about, then let's make the question more specific. But if it really is open-ended, like I don't even know what direction to go, that kind of thing, then I'm okay with the topic. So Sabra,
Mhm.
which
Oh,
is there,
okay.
does that
Well,
work?
so I do body work and energy work, but I'm more interested in being a healer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I'm not really sure. I mean, I do energy work and intuitive work, but I'm not sure like if I should be incorporating breath work or what other modalities as a healer to be, incorporating.
The question helps you choose the spread, and this is a really good example, because if we just want to look at how will Sabra's career progress if she incorporates more holistic modalities and more healing methods into her existing bodywork practice. What will be the outcome if she does that? Then we want a general spread like the one that I'm going to teach you right now. And then if she wants really specific suggestions, like what's the outcome if I add breath work? What's the outcome if I add Reiki? What's the outcome if I add crystals? What's the outcome if I add nutrition counseling? I don't know what all the various options going various directions could be. Then what I would do with a client is ask each one of those separately and pull 2 cards on each specific question and just go through that and just say, let's look, like, is this one gonna work for you? Is this one gonna work for you? So I'm assuming that it will work, Sabra, for us to ask that question of kind of what will be the outcome if you do this. And we would, in terms of the outcome, just again, so that you understand what that incorporates, looking at an outcome is going to tell us what are the challenges that'll come up, what are the benefits that'll come up. It'll include all of that. So is that what you would be interested in looking at?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So I just lay out all 7 cards face up. You can do it any way you want. This table is much smaller than the old one I used, so I might have to adjust a little bit my normal spacing. You can do it any way you want, but that's just I just like doing it that way. Okay. So can you see the cards? More or less?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so one of the first things that I do when I lay this spread out is I look to see if we have, what are some general themes that we're seeing? Do we see so the first thing that I do is look to see what are the general themes. Do I see any immediate things that I want to address? Do I see a lot of a certain suit, or a lot of court cards, or a lot of majors, or a lot of reversals, anything like that? And just basic things like that I look for and address those immediately. One thing I do with a lot of clients is if I tell them the positions, and if there's a negative card in the final outcome, because I can see all the cards, I address it almost immediately, so they're not sitting there looking at it the whole time going, oh no, what's going to happen, what's she going to say when she gets to that one. So I'm going to go back to the cards. And so the first thing we see is that we've got 2 majors. We've got a couple swords cards, a couple wands cards. We've got 2 threes, 2 threes, 2 tens, 2 majors. Nothing is standing out so much, nothing becomes dominant, nothing stands out as being the main thing. So I'm not ready to make an assessment that way yet. So the next thing we do is we go to the first card in the spread. In this case, it's a strength card. And I'm going to come back to my other camera. And so here's the strength card in this. And again, this is the Tarot of the Old Path. And so, and this is, I really love this strength card because that woman, she's stark naked on top of a lion holding a caduceus, and her arm is wrapped around the lion's tail, and it's just like there's so much presence and so much confidence and so much beauty in that image, and as well as all the strength, that inner strength that complete confidence conveys. So I just love this card. And of course, obviously, the most important relevant thing for us right now is that caduceus, because that's a symbol of the medical field. And so the caduceus as an emblem of health and healing is going to be significant for the question. And the other thing, and this card came up reversed, and it represents, the nudity to me represents, again, it's just like I feel totally comfortable and totally confident doing this. And so the reversal is like, but hold on just a second before I drop my robe. It's just like, wait a second, let me check my hair one more time before I drop my robe, or something like that. And so to me, it's like you have all the confidence that you need, but actually opening that up and showing that confidence, there's a little bit of hesitation there. So bottom line, all I need to say to you is you've got the confidence to do that, so just do it. And the first card in the whole spread tends to represent the theme. And so the idea of confidence being part of this theme, the idea of the healing coming out as part of this theme, the idea of just some general strength ideas of the human versus the animal, and the putting the animal instincts or the animal part of us kind of under the guidance of the more spiritual part of us, represented by the woman. So some of those things will play into this. So the next thing that we look at, and I'll come back to the cards now. The next thing we see is that besides the strength card, the second card is the Three of Cups. And I'm gonna really do this kind of card by card so that you can learn the spread itself. So the top two cards, I forgot to say this before, the top two cards are the spiritual influences. The third card is the spiritual advice. The bottom two cards are the practical concerns. The third card at the bottom is so this is the sixth card here. This is the practical advice. And then the card in the middle is the final outcome or the next step. And so spiritual influences, spiritual advice, practical influences, practical concerns, practical advice, final outcome or next step. The top two are the spiritual influences, and the one to the right, which is the Three of Cups here, is the greater of the two spiritual influences. It has a little bit more, it's a little more important. And so what do we get there but the Three of Cups? And so the Three of Cups, of course, is abundance, it's happiness and friendship, enjoyment, having a good time. And so that's, I think, one of the things in terms of the spiritual influences around this career question. One of the considerations is this idea of how can we bring more fun into the situation, bring more pleasure and enjoyment in. And I'm suspecting that this is going to allow that confidence to step forward a little more fully by being able to do this. Now, some of the things that are, it's interesting, well, I did make that, I don't know, my mind goes weird places. I did make that comment about nutrition, nutritional counseling or something. And we do have a picture of people eating and drinking. So one other thing that I might say is if any of your ideas include something that is more social, that is more fun, that is more, or that is about eating, drinking, any kind of supplement even that's taken internally, that's ingested. Those are types of things that I might highlight as kind of a first step in terms of moving into this new layer of your career. The other thing that I see going forward is that the next card in the advice position is the Ten of Swords. Now, it's pretty clear when you put the Three of Cups next to the Ten of Swords that the current situation, this might be fabulous advice for your business. Like, what if you were doing some kind of, not just incorporating breath work with clients, but what if you were doing like some meditations or something, some group things, some group breath work exercises? Obviously, that's not possible right now because of all the stay-at-home orders. So that might be part of what's going on with these two cards. It's like, ultimately, this is going to be really good for your business. However, it's not possible right now. The other thing to keep in mind whenever you're talking to a holistic practitioner and the Ten of Swords comes up, chiropractic and acupuncture are really positive meanings for the Ten of Swords. So if Sabre is considering something like acupuncture, then that would be a really good addition, and that's in the advice position, so that could be advised. Acupuncture would be a really good thing to start with. I think I'll pause again and ask if there's any questions so far. Or Sabre, do you have anything you need to say?
That card was a little concerning. Do you think it could be referring to anything else? I mean, of course, we can't be in public, in group settings right now, and I receive acupuncture, but I don't have an interest in giving that or chiropractic work. But yeah, so would that indicate anything else?
I think what I will say at this point, how I would interpret that, and remember, this is the advice position. And so what we're trying to see in this card is advice. And so, it's not, this one is not a predictive card. It's an advice. The influences can be predictive and the final outcome can be predictive, but the advice cards tend not to be. However, some things that I might say are, if you don't take this seriously, if you are too easygoing with your career, this might be predictive in terms of this could be the result. I got a lot of glare on this computer today. Let's see what else.
Okay, so you mean if I was just kind of having fun and not really focused and serious about my work, the work that I do, the result could be backlash.
Yeah.
That sort of
And
thing.
yeah, and the other thing that even going, that's one of the things when I'm doing this spread, so this is good advice for all of you too. When I'm doing this spread, I am, like I said, I check in at the very beginning and see all those cards, take a quick look at them. Usually that fills in a whole bunch of information into my mind. And so my whole reading that I do is delineating step by step all the processes that I'm seeing. One other thing that this might be, and I'm considering it based on the fact that we also see the Ten of Wands, which is usually it's the man carrying the heavy load. In this case, he seems to have fumbled the load and can't seem to get it all back together again. And the final outcome is the Three of Swords, which is sadness. And in this, it seems like a competition. And so there's other cards that are positive, so I don't think this whole question is a negative question. But one of the things that I have noticed with people who work with the public, that work with clients, is that when I see a lot of negative cards coming up, I ask them if the type of work they do tends to bring in people that are having a difficult time. And as a rule, your average body worker probably would maybe say, no, not really, but again, because of our situation right now, it's much more likely that the need, as you develop this over, and I'm saying the next few months, might be to incorporate more resources for people that are having a lot more difficulty. And that tends to be, especially when you get such a good strength card to start you off with, some of those challenging cards to me represent your the type of the clients that you get and the type of the challenge of that you'll have working with them, because this is how your clients feel. That's how I see it. And I've had that come up quite a bit with people that are making a transition in a career towards something that they think will help more people, and then this kind of card comes up, and it's not that they're not going to do well in it, it's that it's going to be more stressful because you have to work with people that are more stressed out. And it's not just like the rich ladies coming in to get their massage once a week. It's like people that are really going through that need rehabilitation. And you said body work. I don't know if you do massage or what all you do. If you do therapeutic massage, your claims for therapeutic, requests for therapeutic, and even insurance claims might go way up. And that might be something too, just in terms of practical advice, even though we're still on the spiritual level, is that, if you do massage and you don't do therapeutic, maybe that's something to add in, because that's something people can use their health insurance for, and that way they can, you can increase your clientele, even though they're not paying as much. So some things like that are what I would see there. Now, again, this is the big picture. The first three cards are that big picture. The next three are the practical concerns. And keep in mind, with the big picture, the two main cards, the two influence cards, were Strength and Three of Cups, which are very positive. So the next thing we go is into the practical, and we get our Ten of Wands here, and then the second one is the Two of Wands. And the Ten of Wands, this is the guy that looks like he's got all these sticks. He's trying to build something, but they're just kind of falling around him. It looks like somewhere between a game of Jenga turned into pickup sticks or something. He's got even sticks on either side of his head, so it looks a little uncomfortable, possibly even a little painful, or not painful, but potential to be to have increased discomfort. And so this card generally will represent having a lot of burden, having a lot of responsibility, working all the time and not getting a break. Those are some of the standard meanings for the card. And so, but the second card is a Two of Wands. And in this sense, in this particular image, the guy is on stilts. And so he's using those two stilts to move forward, and probably move at a little bit faster. I think somebody that's skilled at wearing stilts probably can move faster because their legs are essentially longer, so they can move forward at a better pace. And he seems balanced to me. He doesn't seem uncomfortable. Stilts in general seem uncomfortable to me, but in this case, he seems pretty balanced. So I think he's able to move forward pretty easily with this. So the first thing that says to me in terms of practical advice is, we already know you have a lot of skill. We saw that in the Strength card. But if you try to implement too many things at one time, it's all going to come down in a house of cards. But if you focus on two things at a time, that's going to get you further faster. And so I'm going to hit the advice card, and then I'll ask you about that. But the question I'm going to ask is, what are the two things? And how many things do you already do, and how many do you want to add? And let's see if we can figure out what the two either things or the two categories are that are going to be the best to advance your business. And so now we're not talking, the big picture tended to be very, the big picture cards do tend to be a little bit heady and philosophical and what if. And the practical cards do tend to bring it down and say, okay, these are the things that the practical considerations that we need to take into account so that we can make this decision. And the advice card, which is really interesting, is the Hermit. In this one, it's called the Wise Man, or the Wise One. And I love this card because this illustration, he has his, he's up in the mountains. You can see the mountain, you can see the snow. He has his cloak opened, and inside his cloak is fire. And he's got his staff right here. There's a bunny rabbit here. His lantern is up here. But out of the fire, there's a stream coming. And there's a whole landscape in there that is grass and little hills and a stream coming out, and some flowers down here. And so he's holding this beautiful spring environment. He's cloaking it and holding it within, protected, despite the mountainous terrain, the snow, the rest of the environment is barren looking. And so and there's also a little butterfly in there, right there, which is such a symbol of transformation and hope and rebirth and regeneration. And so again, that one was reversed, and I don't spend a lot of time with reversals as a rule, but it is interesting that both of the major arcana were reversed. And I believe, to me, major arcana are the forces beyond our control. That's the most generic definition of them. And the forces are beyond our control right now. Anybody trying to run a healing business just doesn't have the capacity to do that right now. And so that's definitely going to play into this, that the forces beyond our control are not supporting us at this time in this particular endeavor. Okay, but going back to just simple advice, the Hermit is saying, always says, do this on your own, do it by yourself. And so if you, if you work for, I can only, I don't even know, Sabra, sorry if you've told me before, I don't know what you do. You mentioned the word body work, and I don't even know what that involves. I'm going to use a really generic example, just only as a way of illustration. And so this is, for instance, if somebody currently worked at like Massage Envy or something like that, and it doesn't pay very well, they work you really hard, but you can fill up your client roster and make a living doing that. If you get the Hermit, that's like, go off on your own. Now is the time. You can't go into Massage Envy anyway right now. Now's the time to go off on your own. Obviously, you can't see clients one-on-one at this time, but there are other things that you can do. And so so if you work with a partner, if you work for a company, this is advising you to go off on your own. If you already are on your own, it will reinforce that to continue doing that. But more important, I think it is really follow your path. If you are currently working for yourself by yourself, but you're following somebody else's business model, don't bother. Do it yourself. Do it your own way. And the last thing that's really important in this as advice card is, this is your job right now, is to hold the spring within your cloak so that you can share the heat and warmth of that, despite how cold and barren it seems out in the everyday world. So this is your advice, and that is what is your responsibility at this time in terms of moving forward with your career. So the other thing with this, so this was the spiritual, which tended to be a little philosophical and raise some questions. This was the practical, which tended to say, okay, only two things, focus on two main things or two main categories. Don't get too many things going. It's likely to kind of fall in on itself. And there's more important, in some ways, there's more important things to consider. Creating this environment is more relevant and more important even than the actual question that you asked. The other thing that we want to look at is that these two cards on the left are towards the past. These two cards on the right are towards the future. And so the 10 of Wands, which was the things kind of fumbling, that's actually in the past. And so one of the things that we might consider with this is, have you already tried adding things and had it turn into a bit of a mess? Either lost clients, had clients not find you because you did so many things they didn't understand what was going to happen if they went to see you, that kind of thing. It's in the past. So the other thing I would say is it would be relevant to examine the last time you added something new, what was the result when you did that, and let's learn from that. The Three of Cups and the Two of Wands are towards the future. So these are much more positive cards. The Two of Wands is called Dominion. In the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, it's the guy standing on the parapet looking out over the lands extending out as far as the eye can see. He holds that globe in his hand, and it has to do, the title is Dominion, which is where is your domain? What domain do you rule? And in that sense, what is the world that you control? And so this is a really positive card, and I think all the Wands cards, they're business and enterprise, so they're all good for career questions. Plus the 2, 3, and 4 of Wands are Aries cards, and Aries in general tends to be a lot more entrepreneurial. Just because it's both cardinal and fire. The Aries energy will be very representative of solopreneur, entrepreneurial, small business, self-employed type of situations. 2, 3, and 4 of Wands, all three tend to represent that. So the pleasure and the enjoyment, the defining your dominion and claiming it, those are all things that are in the future for you. Sabra, do you have any questions or comments or anything at this time?
No. Did you want to go through the 2 options to find the 2 of Wands?
I do. Yeah, let's do that first, and then let's go into the final card. So yeah, what are you currently doing, and what are the options that you have?
So I have people can book a massage. So it's like a blend of different bodywork modalities, like deep tissue and Thai. So I would blanket or put that under one umbrella, bodywork, just the different modalities I offer for the body. And I'm trying to shift. I enjoy it, but I don't want to do it even 50%. I just kind of want to shorten that. Yeah. So you can make an appointment for that, or you can do half and half, which is like half of the session will be massage and the other half is me doing Reiki. I'll receive psychic hits, and so I'll share that kind of information. And I haven't been incorporating breath work. And then you can have your own session of just the energy work, no body work. But I also have like an ozone sauna. So I do detox therapy with that. That's not very popular. I haven't really marketed it. And I do amp coil, not popular. I haven't marketed it, although people are starting to order that more. And yeah, like fasting, you were talking about nutrition. That's all an interest of mine, but I don't see myself incorporating that for a few years. But I want to be able to be mobile, to travel or live in another country and not be reliant on the people I have in my community. I mean, in my physical community, I want to be able to work with people online. So yeah, I guess I have thought about doing more channeling work or Akashic records. So we could ask about that, right?
So, I think this is what I think in terms of applying those cards now to the question asked. Let's go ahead and address this final card. And the final card is this 3 of Swords, which is sadness and sorrow. And in this particular image, it looks like I don't know, honestly, to be blunt, it looks like 2 men were fighting over the girl, but she's got a sword too, so she was part of it somehow. I don't know. Looks like the one guy killed the other guy. The girl looks sad. And so what the whole situation is in this card, I've never really known. But there's definitely a sense of competition, definitely a sense of the stronger. You can see the one guy, the guy that's still standing is bigger than the guy down on the ground. So the stronger kind of winning out. And with the 3 of Swords, just a generic meaning of sadness, I think, and seeing our 10 of Wands, I think the main thing that I'm thinking is that this having so many modalities is not going to work right now. And I don't think that's directly related to stay-at-home orders and stuff like that. I think anybody that has a lot of modalities listed on their website tends to have trouble booking them. And I've worked, believe me, a lot of clients that I have are self-employed. So I've talked to a lot of people about this. I think going back to the options, And seeing that Three of Swords as the final outcome, I think your current plan is a little too vague. Maybe a little too three of cups, maybe too much of that you know, if I just keep you know, putting up more modalities. The more modalities I put up on the website, the more options people have, the more likely they are to book something. And I don't really have to work on building the business itself, which are kind of two different options. I can be blunt, so hopefully I'm not actually mean. So I think one of the things is to step back from the entire thing that you're doing. The other thing is that, at least for this month, who knows if this is going to extend on, or that even after they, you know, in Washington, they already extended the stay-at-home order until May 4th. So I guess they want everybody to go out and party on May 5th for Cinco de Mayo. I'm not sure what the reasoning was, but we'll see. So I know we're all home through May 4th. A lot of schools have been canceled through the end of the year, which is usually May or June. So we know that we're not just talking about 2 weeks of social distancing. So that said, for immediate income for this quarter, I would recommend offering some kind of online features. However, and for the big picture, what I think you want to look at is how to become the hermit. I don't think you're there yet because we've got the reversal. I think you have everything you need to be the hermit. I just don't think you're quite there yet. It takes a shift, a mind shift. And that's why those two majors were reversed, because it takes a big shift to rebrand your business and say, I offer body work, or I offer healing sessions with Sabra. You can come in and get a massage, or you can get a healing session. When you come in for a healing session, I'm going to do an intake. I'm going to evaluate what's going on with you. I'm going to give you a questionnaire, and I'm going to tell you these are the things that I recommend that you do. And then you can incorporate every modality you have, because they don't have to choose. They're being told, okay, Sabra said that based on my condition and the thing that I want to work on, this is what I need to do. And I think that's what that Hermit and the Two of Wands are really about. And I think the current plan, I don't think any one of your modalities has a problem. I think part of that Three of Swords is that this might extend longer than we think, and that there's going to be some disappointment in terms of going forward career-wise.
Yeah, a lot has made sense. I've been trying not to speak too much, but yeah, I just started offering online healing sessions, and I need to get more organized, like the behind the scenes stuff. This is a good time for me to delve into that and get more organized, and send like emails to clients and stuff. So
good.
Yeah, I'm going to be working on that. Right.
Excellent. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to show you a couple other things with this spread as we kind of wind up for today. I'm going to go back to the spread. And some of the things that you can do with this is that this card, the first spiritual influence, often leads down to this practical future card. And so the idea of following her strength and really confronting whatever disappointment there is, and really establishing that dominion and those bigger strides that you're not just like, I'm going to try this little step and this baby step and this baby step, but you're taking giant steps. Incorporating those strides, I think that's the thing that's going to really let you move forward. And likewise, from this 10 of Wands, on the practical level, you got too many things you're offering. If you confront the disappointment, and this might even be a reduced number, 3 things. And that might be, 1, book body work, 2, book energy work, 3, book a healing session. And you kind of already doing it because you have the body work, the healing work in the half and half. But I think this healing session where you do an intake with them, and it's a series, I see it as a series of, it'll be a 3 series thing or a 5 series thing. And you come in, do the intake and all that. I really think that you're going to get better clients. You're going to have more fun. You're really going to be able to go somewhere with somebody. I don't know how much, if you probably have pretty good repeat clients, but I think really setting a goal for where they want to get with their healing, I think that's how I see this. If you can start helping your clients set a goal for where they want to get to with their healing and really working with it through your choosing which modality they use and going step by step by step, I think everybody's going to be happier. You're going to be happier. You're going to have more of this abundance. I need to go back to my other camera.
That's great. That has intuitively come through for me. So yeah, I just haven't really put it together yet.
Okay, excellent.
Awesome.
First of all, does anybody else have any questions about this spread or the way we interpreted it?
Hey, Joy, I have a question.
Yeah.
So how you were just explaining in the sense of the spiritual going to practical and then going back up from practical to spiritual, how would you do that in a relationship spread if the top 3 are one person and the bottom 3 are the other person and then the conclusion in the middle?
Good question. And wow, you picked it up like that. You immediately saw all the applications. So I'm really impressed. It took me years to figure all this out. And you're just like, oh, la da 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 da. So, this influence brings about this result in the other person.
Okay.
This influence brings about this result in the other person.
Okay, interesting. All right, cool. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I had a quick question. What is, when shouldn't you use this spread? Because I can see all the applications on when you could, but are there certain questions that probably this spread wouldn't be good for?
Like she said, if she just wanted me to go through one by one and say, okay, breath work, da 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 da, okay, the something, I forget what the other things are that she mentioned already. I would do two cards. I'm pretty sure I've taught you that, but it's just like, what's the outcome of adding, ask us one thing that you want to know the outcome of adding.
Breath work.
Breath work?
Soma breath work.
Okay. So tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Okay, good. So then I take top card, bottom card. First of all, breath work. Yes, that's an easy one. We get the Chariot and the King of Pentacles. Why aren't you already, you are already doing it. So this is just, it's just like all healing sessions include breath work from now on. This is just easy peasy. The Chariot is the victory card. The King of Pentacles has lots of money. So there you go. And plus breath work. And the other thing about breath work is, I'm guessing, is that regardless of the normal way you do it, you probably can do a remote session of that pretty easily that has really good results for people. so I would immediately start doing the breath work, because you can be making money off that right away. So that's an example, Natalie. If the question is really specific, I'll use just 2 cards. The other thing that I do a lot is this is such a specific example, but it's the only thing that's popping into my mind right now, is I will divide the deck into 3 or sometimes 4 piles. And what this does is, when I've got moms, I cannot get a mom to not ask about her kids. I don't know what the deal is. Moms always want to ask about their kids. I tried for a really long time to get them to not do it. And finally, I'm just like, okay, let's just ask about your kids, because every mom seems to want to know about their kids. I don't have kids, as you can tell, because I don't get it. And so, and I divide it into as many piles as there are kids. And for one, it comes out just fine. It works every time. It delineates each one of the kids. I can do it quickly. It's just one quick spread. I don't have to go into all the excruciating detail about, you know, what miserable children they are, or, you know, what fabulous, extreme, wonderful children they are. And so it's just like, yep, this one's good, that one's not good. And they're like, yeah, that's about the truth. And sometimes I can get some advice in there as well. So trying to think of other times.
So I have a question on that.
Yeah.
So it sounds like what I'm hearing, and I may be wrong, because I am a lot of times, but but what it sounds like is that it sounds like, for the most part, you tend to do like the hexagram pretty much all the time, and then if there's specific things that are rolling on that, unless they say, hey, I want to know about a relationship, or hey, I want to know, then you kind of go, and then like with the children example, and with the cutting the deck in half and getting more specific, that you kind of use that as kind of a secondary or an addition to the main spread.
Yeah, the only time and the only time I don't do that, that's a good question, because it allowed me to put it in perspective. I'll get clients that ask about a relationship. And like I said, a lot of times I don't get a real specific question. A lot of times I'm just happy with a theme or a topic. And a lot of times I don't want the client to explain the situation to me. However, if I do figure out or find out that the relationship doesn't actually exist yet, and and they made it sound like, they don't say, I want to know, like, what's coming up for me in the area of romance, but they say, I want to know about, John Doe and me, then I need to find out what their current relationship is to John Doe, because it really makes a huge difference in terms of how to read the cards and what the cards will come out with. So if I find out that she's had one date with John Doe, or a couple dates, the very first thing I'll ask is this going somewhere? Is this going to even evolve? Or maybe they're only texting or communicating online and haven't even met or had a phone call yet. It's just, sometimes to me it's like, well, you don't necessarily need a reading yet, because some things are allowed to something has to develop on its own to a certain degree before you get a reading. But in those types of circumstances, I will cut the deck and do the 2-card thing, just to look at, is this relationship even something that's worth asking about? And likewise with other topics, somebody's like, do I have a health issue? I'm not sure what's going on with this health issue. Let's just pull 2 cards even before doing a spread and just say, is this something that we need to look at? And it might be like, nah, it's fine. And so then I know that I don't have to go forward with a full reading on it.
And do you interpret those two cards together, or is like one past and future, or how do those two cards intertwine together?
I do try to make them intertwine and try to get that meaning to get them to blend into a single meaning, but it does tend to be so like the second one is a little bit stronger and a little bit more dominant, and otherwise, if it's bottom, especially if the first card is a good card or a strong card and the other one isn't, and it's bottom, then it's like this is fading out. But if it's bottom, and so normally it's bottom. I love how I do this. Or if the second card is just really strong or really good in some way naturally, but even if they're both kind of the same or both neutral or both good or whatever, the second card gets a little more emphasis. I'm not sure. I guess that's the best I can explain that.
No, that makes sense. Thanks.
So, okay, did you like this? Was this useful? Do you feel like you have a good handle on this spread now? Was the example useful to show it in action?
Absolutely. I can't wait to go and use it. It's really really connects well, and it's fairly straightforward with how to set it up and how to interpret it. And it really looks like a lot of fun. I'm going to experiment with it.
Okay, good. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Joy.
Bye.